Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nivase Sasanyavali Pasatyade Satarane Om Aganatiminandasya Jana Jana Sulakaya Saksu Samilatan Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapandantikam Vansakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhuve Vita Patitanam Pabhinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Now, who knows what the first question I'm going to ask you right now is? Who is a great mind reader and can guess? Do you know what I'm going to ask? Are you a mind reader? Okay, I'm going to think of it very carefully. I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. Okay, what am I thinking? What's my very difficult question?
Recap of yesterday's session.
Huh?
Recap of yesterday's session.
Something like that, but something simpler than a recap. Can you guess? Are you expert at mind reading? Mataji, are you an expert mind reader? No. Yes, go ahead. You can mind read. Go ahead. I'll think about it very carefully.
How was your day?
Okay, that's not what I was thinking, but okay, how was your day today? It was?
Nice.
It was fine. What did you do today that was so fine?
Today we seen like God inside us.
It took you all day?
Whole day, morning program and late.
Yeah, so it was a good day for you. Do you feel peaceful inside? A little. Do you feel peaceful? Good. Raise your hand if you feel peaceful inside. If I do it the other way, I wonder if it'll work. Raise your hand if you don't feel peaceful inside. Okay. Now what we should do is we add up both and see if it equals the number of people that are here. And maybe some are not decided whether they're peaceful or not. Okay, now here's my question. And I'm going to ask the same question tomorrow for the first question, so you'll know what tomorrow's question is by listening very carefully to what today's question is. It's a very difficult question. Does anyone remember anything from the class yesterday? Raise your hand if you remember. Yes.
Akrura's journey to Vrindavan.
Yes, Akrura's journey to Vrindavan.
And it described, first you told about how walking is good because you meditate.
Excuse me, how?
Walking is good. Lord Jagannath used to walk towards Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. He was meditating.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yeah. So you remembered that. Thank you. Anyone else remember anything? Very good. Yes, Prabhu.
Everything in Vrindavan is meant for the service of Krishna.
Everything in Vrindavan is meant for the service of Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
So Akrura goes and follows Krishna to Kamsa's place in spite of knowing that Kamsa is going to kill him, because Akrura wanted Kamsa to be killed by Krishna.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, I'm sorry.
In Vrindavan, Brajavasis, whenever they face any difficulties, they turn to Krishna.
whenever the residents of Vrindavan face difficulties, they turn to Krishna. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret about teaching. And this, would you like to hear it? Yeah. So, but secrets you can't tell anyone else, okay? The secret is when there's a bunch of many people sitting. Do you remember anything from yesterday, by the way? Huh? He's a Brahmin boy, fully honest. The secret, or the one of the things that a teacher knows, that if you ask a question, like, do you remember something from yesterday's class, or any question, what good thing happened to you today? And I call on you, Prabhu. But everyone in the room will answer the question in their own mind. Because maybe he'll call on me next. And I better be ready, otherwise I won't have anything to say. Or it intrigues us to remember something from yesterday in the class. So don't tell anyone, but that's a secret that teachers know. Okay? Do you remember anything from yesterday's class?
So, like the story of the elephant, how Bali Maharaj's son became the elephant whom.
Do you remember why? Do you remember the name of that elephant?
He was going to Sri Lanka.
Yes, but do you remember the name of the elephant that he became? You can tell him, it's okay. Kuvalaya Peter. Yes. Thank you both very much. Does anyone else remember anything from yesterday's class? Some of you remember so many things, but it's shy.
How Kansa was trying to praise Akrura diplomatically
Yeah.
to convince him to go to bring Krishna so that he can kill him.
Yes.
And Akrura was also in his own mind, he was also diplomatic because his intention was different.
Yes.
He wanted to bring Krishna because he wanted to Krishna to get Kansa to get killed.
Yes. This is the world of diplomacy. Everyone is lying and cheating. No one means what they're saying. Yes. And everyone knows that the person is speaking to me and not telling me the truth. But you can't act like that. That's the world of diplomacy. Okay, last one. Who am I going to call on? Oh, yes, but then I won't make it the last one, because I'll call on you next. Don't worry. Don't look behind you, because there's no one behind you who's going to get called on. It's you. Were you here yesterday?
Me?
No. Yeah. Were you here yesterday? Okay, so you just wait, and you'll be the next person we're going to call on. Yes. Yes, Narada, he always does that. He's like, he turns and turns and turns. Yes.
Yesterday in the beginning you were telling like when we go while walking to Dham, then before our body reaches our mind reaches the Dham.
If we take the slow paths. But it's so difficult to take the slow path in Kali Yuga. Everyone wants everything immediately. But we really can't get everything immediately because we have to develop the proper mind to get everything. To get Krishna in second canto, first canto, or later cantos, it's mentioned once in the early cantos, and then the story is told later that, and Prabhupada would mention this, Kadvanga Maharaj, in one moment, he surrendered and got Krishna. But for most of us, it could take some time. But if we give ourselves to Krishna, and if we have that consciousness, then very quickly or almost immediately we can be with Krishna. Because now, I could say for myself, I'm in a different consciousness. I'm not in the consciousness that allows me to be in Sri Vrindavan Dham. because everyone in Goloka Vrindavan, they're only thinking about Krishna and Krishna's pleasure. There's no false ego there. The nature of false ego is everyone who has a false ego, every conditioned soul is thinking about himself and as if he is the center of existence. And in one's own mind, one is the center of existence, but it's not real. We are not. So in Goloka Vrindavan, if I can't help but use this example, if me who's not qualified with love for Krishna gets there, it'll just, but I can't, of course. But if this explains why, it's because immediately pull out my mobile phone, put my back to Krishna and take a selfie. And then I would upload it on, if I was old, I would upload it on Facebook, but if I was young, it would be on TikTok or Instagram or Twitch. Twitch, is there something called Twitch?
X.
Huh?
X.
X, that used to be Twitter. And I'd upload it, and look where I am. Look who's with me. So that's why, because it's upside down, it's backwards. Because there's no love for Krishna, I can't be there because my consciousness won't be right. And it's a matter of consciousness. It's really a matter of consciousness, whether we're in this, where we are, and what we see and what we perceive. And how we perceive life is less a measure of what life is or what the world is, and more a measure of what our consciousness is. Not that there isn't a real world, but how we perceive that world is a measure of our own consciousness. Once, Srila Prabhupada was called to, at 26 Second Avenue, Prabhupada, everyone, so many people would come, and some of them were, how do you say? I can say it in Chinese, but Tora Karab, you could say that? Not, their mental functions aren't exactly working properly. So everyone would come, but Prabhupada would welcome them and have them chant Hare Krishna, and they would have kirtans. And one man was a musician. And what he would do is he took out the inside of a piano. Has anyone ever seen the inside of a piano? It's like all these strings and things like that, yeah. So he would take that and he would take like a hammer and beat the insides of the piano. So he even brought the insides of the piano to 26 Second Avenue, and he would come to the kirtans and beat the inside of the piano. And one day, he invited Srila Prabhupada to attend a concert that he was the main performer in. He would attend a concert at Carnegie Hall. And Carnegie Hall was the most famous concert venue or place in all of New York City. It was famous. So he invited Prabhupada to come. And now what do you think the next part of the story is? Do you think Prabhupada would come? What do you think? Remember, this person was a little bit, and we'd beat the insides. Okay, you say yes. What do you think? What do you think? No. No. Well, the ladies say no, because they wouldn't go. And the men, yes, this sounds very interesting. What will happen? I will go. What do you think? Yes. Prabhupada decided to go. And then, so, of course, the beautiful old famous concert hall was not very well attended on this occasion. So there were some people there, and Prabhupada sat down near the front. And And then the person came out, I can't remember his name, but then there was a piano on stage, and he opened up the piano, and he had his hammer, and he was banging on the inside of the strings of the piano. And it went on for some time, and then the first half of the performance was over, and there was a break. So he came down to meet Prabhupada, and he thanked him for coming. And Prabhupada, and he said, there'll be a second half. And Prabhupada said, I have some other appointment, so I won't be able to stay for the second half, but it was very nice. Thank you very much. And Prabhupada left. And as they were going back, the devotee, maybe Brahmananda Prabhu, asked Prabhupada why he had attended. Because he knew what it would be like. The person was going to get up and take hammers and bang on the strings of the piano. So they asked Prabhupada, why did you attend? And Prabhupada said, I wanted to see Carnegie Hall to see if it was a suitable place for a temple. Because Prabhupada's vision was that everything belonged to Krishna and everything should be used in Krishna's service. So it really depends. Everything we see depends on our consciousness. Of course, again, not that there's not a real world out there. We are not impersonal saying that everything is illusion. But no, how we perceive what is there, it depends on our consciousness. So Akrura, he got in the chariot. Now here's a question to see if you remember things from yesterday. But it's an easy question, so don't worry, I'm going to ask you. So don't worry. And if you're not sure of the answer, you can just Was the chariot new or old? New. You notice how new rhymes with? The word new rhymes with? Moo. Yeah. Everything fits together perfectly. And do you know why Kamsa gave him a new chariot to go? And why Kamsa was happy about that? And why Akrura was happy about it too? Kamsa thought, do you know why? Do you know why Kamsa was happy to give Akrura a new chariot?
He was diplomatic. He wanted to please
Akrura will be so happy to ride it, just like if you get a new car or something like that. And also Krishna, being a young boy, he'll be so happy to get in the new chariot, and then he'll come to Mathura. And Akrura also was happy that it was a new chariot, but for a completely different reason. He thought, the last thing I'd want is to have Krishna to get into the chariot that was driven by Kamsa, and it would be Kamsa Prasad. So that it was a new chariot. He was thinking it would be nice. It's more suitable for the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So he got in the chariot, and this is the beginning, as we read the first 2 verses, and now we're going to read the next verses. And now, I already told you something about this, that Akrura's thoughts, I've divided them into 3 parts. And these 3 parts really instruct us on how to get to Vrindavan, both if we're going for pilgrimage and if we want to use our life in such a way that our life bears the greatest fruit, which is to be fully qualified to enter Krishna's or Nanda Gokul or Sri Vrindavadam. So there's going to be 3 parts, and today, let's see how many we can go over. So there is one hint in the 2nd verse. First of all, Akrura felt tremendous devotion for the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, Ambujekshane, and he felt himself so fortunate. And he began to consider as follows. So the point that I would like to make here is that and this will come up right at the end as well, but it's the foundational principle in performing service to Krishna. And that is absorption. Absorption in thoughts of Krishna. Because we have a tendency to take what we do, which is service to Krishna, and forget that it's who we're doing it to please. This is such a tendency. There's a tendency to become unconscious of what we're doing and who we're doing it to please. In other words, it becomes what we're doing in Krishna consciousness, everything from chanting our rounds to doing the worship of the deity, or sweeping the floor, or cooking prasadam. There's a tendency to disconnect the act from what the act is really in its essence. It's a service, a devotional service. It's bhakti, an act done for the pleasure of Krishna. So instead of getting absorbed in thoughts about Krishna when we do our service, our mind, I can speak for myself, my mind tends to just wander all over the universe and forget that the fortune of having an opportunity to be doing something for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, I think we shall speak more about this tomorrow and possibly even use some technical terms. But right now, you should understand that Akrura was not like that. He was absorbed in thoughts of Krishna for the entire journey. So we are on the path or a journey to Goloka Vrindavan, to serve Krishna in the spiritual world. And in one sense, it's just a matter of time. Some will go very fast because of, you could say, because of their sincerity, great sincerity, or that we could say also that they've been on the path for many lives. This is described in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that sometimes it will take many lives, even though it can be done in a moment. That devotion and giving oneself to Krishna with great love. But sometimes it may take many lives. So part of the journey is to be Krishna conscious, conscious of Krishna as we're on this path. But it's certain, practically speaking, that everyone will get there if one has the desire and if one has some fortune and becoming in contact with the path of bhakti, and inside expresses some desire to actually be with Krishna in the spiritual world. So that is a foundation that Akrura, the whole time, his whole journey, he was thinking of Krishna. He was absorbed. It wasn't a mechanical journey. Even sometimes if we're driving a car, even if we're driving the car, even in the traffic here or in any city, if you've been on that route many times, the same route, then we're driving, we don't even think about it. We just somehow or another you get there, or if you're walking somewhere, you somehow just get there. So Akrura, he got there, but his thoughts were always absorbed and he was thinking of Krishna. So here's the first of the verses of Akrura's journey. Sri Akrura, he thought. And this is the first of 3 sections of principles that Akrura is enunciating. He thought, Kim maya charitam bhadram, kim tapam paramam tapa, kim vatap yarhate dhatam, yad rakshyami adya kesavam. What pious deeds have I done? Bhadram. What auspiciousness have I done? What severe austerities, what tapa, What austerities have I performed? What worship have I performed? Or what charity, datta, what charity have I given that has awarded me the opportunity that today I will see Lord Keshava? I must have done something in my life, this life or in previous lives, because it is so rare, it is so difficult to have the opportunity to see Krishna. And Akrura, on that very day, he was thinking, I shall see the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since, second verse, which is the fourth verse, since I'm a materialistic person, simply absorbed in sense gratification. So he's now humbly thinking about his disqualification and being aware of his own disqualification, or on the other hand, being aware of our disqualification for seeing Krishna. One has to understand, if one wants to be aware of one's disqualification, one really must understand what the actual qualification is to see Krishna. Because Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Shanta Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. So when someone has love for Krishna, his consciousness is so pure, prema. It is so pure, it is so rare, it is so sanctified, it is so subtle. There's nothing material in the person's consciousness. There's no mixtures. Jnana, karma, anavritana, kulena, krishnana, shilana. There's not the slightest tinge of false ego. Not the slightest bit of selfishness. Not the smallest contamination of desire for karma, self-enjoyment in some way or another. I want to get something, or I might want to know something, or I want to even end all the miseries of existence. No. The consciousness of one who can see Krishna, Premanjana, is so full of love for Krishna. There's no contamination of the mode of goodness. There's no contamination of the mode of passion. There's no contamination of the mode of ignorance. There's no touch of any of these things. Just one is completely absorbed, fully, completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna with great love and a desire to please him. Somehow or another, I want to please Krishna. This is a manifestation of loving consciousness. So in the fourth chapter of Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the activities of the Braja Gopikas are described by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, he explains that whatever they are doing, maybe they're looking in the mirror, and maybe they're decorating their hair, or this or that, or they're dressing, or putting some cosmetic ointments on. It looks as if their absorption is in themselves, meaning their physical appearance. But in Braj, it's not like that at all. Rather, Kaviraj is explaining that we can't be fooled into thinking their activities are like the activities of the ordinary people of this world. Because if they were, they wouldn't be with Krishna. Rather, even though it looks like they're looking in the mirror, examining their beauty and this and that, but no, they're just thinking of, if I do this, it'll please Krishna. If I decorate in this way, Krishna will be happy when he sees me. Everything is about Krishna. That is the qualification to be in Sri Vrindavan Dham, to be with Krishna, to see with Krishna, to see Krishna, to serve Krishna. It's that one has to have great love or perfect love. And there's no room for anything else in the consciousness of a person who has prema. Because they're in ecstasy, because they're so connected to Krishna. There's no modes of material nature, again, no passion, goodness, ignorance, no ahankara. Our consciousness is filled with Krishna's Ladini internal Chit Shakti, Ladini Chit Shakti. They're in love with Krishna. So Akrura is thinking, now, how is it possible that I know my own consciousness, and this is another important point, that a devotee has to be introspective, means his consciousness has to be turned inside to know what his own consciousness, with his own thoughts, what his own motivation, what his own intention is. And there's a reason for that. But Akrura is thinking, I know my own consciousness. I'm a materialistic person. I'm absorbed simply in sense gratification. That's what he says in verse 4. But yet, on this very day, I'm going to see Krishna. How is this possible? I think that it is as difficult for me, considering my consciousness, to have gotten this opportunity to see Lord Uttama Sloka, he who the greatest souls glorify with very sweet and chosen verses, who is glorified in all the Vedic literatures. It is as unlikely as a person who has the nature of a Sudra or just a worker to be allowed to recite the Vedic mantras, because in the Varnashrama culture, those who have Brahminical consciousness, more subtle, refined, good consciousness, mode of goodness consciousness, they are allowed to study the Vedas. It's not like, oh, you're born in this family, you can't do it. It's a matter of consciousness. Because if a person who has fine, refined consciousness studies the Vedas, he will come to the right conclusions. And if a person whose consciousness is contaminated by Tamagun, by Rajagun, if he studies the Vedas, he will come to the wrong conclusions. So therefore, for that reason, the people with lower consciousness are disallowed. But does that mean they're disallowed from making advancement? No, they can hear the Vedas, and also there are other literatures which are simpler, less philosophical, such as the Itihas, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, that they're studied by the people who are not as qualified. And if a person born in a Brahminical family isn't as qualified, he won't be allowed. And if a person who has the qualification but isn't born in a Brahminical family, then he will be allowed. Because again, it takes a refined consciousness, an open consciousness, ready to receive that message and let that message purify and develop one's consciousness. So he said, so Akrura is saying, this is so unlikely what's going on, that me, a person with materialistic consciousness, contaminated consciousness, a person engaged in politics and diplomacy, not simple-hearted, not pure-hearted, but yet, somehow or another, on this very day, I'm going to be able to see Krishna. How is it possible? I'm so unqualified. So what is it called when someone sees his lack of qualification, his own, humility. So here, And there's more to it than just that, because other stages and parts of humility are going to be described. But humility is so important. It's the first stage on the journey to Krishna. One can't be proud if one wants to progress. Or if one is proud, Krishna will be so kind that he will teach us that we are not as great as we think we are. But sometimes we may not like the methodology that we have to learn it, these very important lessons. So he thought, I'm not qualified. So sometimes we may think about how unqualified I am, how bad I am, and doubt ourselves and doubt this and doubt that and feel miserable and depressed. But that's not what humility is. Humility is that when you touch with your consciousness, your realization that you're not qualified to do the greatest thing, and there are others who are more qualified. Humility is not just by thinking about how unqualified you are. That's what that's called neurotic self-indulgence. That's a mental unbalance. That's not what humility is. Humility is, I'm not qualified, Krishna, but there you are, who is so kind, and the thoughts are primarily on the kindness and the beauty and the wonder of Krishna's mercy. That is humility, understanding one requires mercy. So Akrura then thinks, after he thinks of his own lack of qualification, he then in text 5 says, but enough of such thoughts. After all, even a fallen soul like me can have a chance to behold the infallible, perfect, Supreme Lord, Achyuta. For one of the conditioned souls being swept along in the river of time, like straw or a piece of wood in a river, sometimes they just go down the river further and further and further, but sometimes they are somehow or another pushed to the shore. So similarly, it is possible for me, in fact, it is what's happening, that I'm going to see Krishna. Now, when one is humbly thinking in this way, that I'm not qualified, but yet Krishna is so merciful, that is the right consciousness. Trust in Krishna's mercy, that is the right consciousness to get Krishna's mercy. I wanted to read this, just hope I can find it easily on this machine, which has its own mind.
Please hear Srimad Bhagavatam's account of how Prabhuji...
Yes, but not now. It said, please hear Srimad Bhagavatam's account of... Yes, I do want to do that, but stop it. No, that's Prabhupada. How nice. That was sweet. What are you thinking right now? Well, I'm trying to get this to go. What were you thinking?
I was stuck on that point when Prabhupada started saying that.
Did you like that? Huh? But did you hear the sound or only I heard it?
I also.
So nice, yes? Okay. Here it is. This is his, Srila Jiva Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami has the same comment. from Vaishnava Toshini and Brihad Vaishnava Toshini. And this comment fills one with hope. Would you like to hear it and be filled with hope? Akrura thinks he is devoid of sadhana for seeing the Lord. And he thinks himself completely unqualified. But the Lord never deviates. He's called achuto or infallible. He never deviates. He never wavers. He never shifts courses, changes his mood. What mood? From his glorious qualities like mercy, in order to respond to the feeble worship of Akrura's thinking, of his own feeble worship. What does feeble mean? Weak. Huh? Not intense. Yes, that's called vyatirek, definition for negative. Not intense, feeble, weak worship. Not so much devotion. I'll read it again. The Lord never deviates from his glorious qualities like mercy, in order to respond to his, meaning Akrura's, feeble worship. He trusted that Krishna is so kind. What's an example of that? Yes. Putana. You know the verse? Aho Pakistan. He gave, even though Putana came in the dress of a devotee, but actually her desire was horrible, to kill Krishna. But Krishna, Gatim Datri, gave her the destination of a nurse in the spiritual world. Kamvada Elum. Where can you find a more kind, more merciful Lord to surrender to than that? That's the sparkling example. Or another example, Ajamil. Ajamil is calling Narayana, his son. And Krishna, or the Lord of Vaikuntha, Krishna is sitting in Vaikuntha thinking, oh, my devotee is calling me. It is my duty to give him protection. He's called Bhava Grahi Janardana. When there's something good, he sees that. Is this the way that conditioned souls think? Just seeing the good? Of course, we have to be practical. If Krishna saw the good in Putana and rewarded that, but he also killed her. That was his mercy. To stop her from, he was angry at her actually, our Acharya said. He closed his eyes, he didn't want to see her. And he killed her, but yet, he thought, she's coming to me to give me her breast milk. Let me give her something wonderful. Kamva Dayalum Sharanam Brajema. Where can one find a more merciful Lord? So Akrura is thinking, not that, oh, today I will see Krishna because I am so qualified, I'm such a great devotee, everyone should know what a great devotee I am. Whether they know or not, I know what a great devotee I am. But rather, humble, humility, understanding the consciousness that's actually required to be in Krishna's presence, and understanding one's own consciousness is not on that level. And yet, at the same time, seeing the fortune that we as aspiring devotees have as being on the path. Akrura was on the path to see Krishna. And understanding that some mercy has come to me despite my lack of qualification. So again, Srila Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami has the same comment. The Lord never deviates from his glorious qualities like mercy in order to respond to a person's feeble worship. When one reads in the Bhagavatam about the thoughts of the Braja Gopikas or Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, when Krishna wasn't present before them, one understands what intense, real, powerful Tivrena bhakti is. When one examines the lives of the great devotees, one reads Prabhupada Lilamrita and see how Prabhupada just got on the boat and arrived. As he said, when he got off the boat, he didn't know anyone in the United States. It's basically 70 years old. He didn't have any money, he didn't have any contacts, he didn't have any influence. There he was, alone with Krishna. He said, when I got off the boat, I did not know whether to turn left or right. But he also said, but of course there was someone there to meet me because they had contacted someone to bring me to Butler, Pennsylvania. But what trust in Krishna's divine hand, and look at how that adventure turned out. We're all sitting here because of that trust in Krishna and that devotion and fixedness. And Prabhupada, and the poems that he wrote. Have you read the poems Prabhupada had wrote on the way? Raise your hand if you've read those. Not yet? If you read them, you'll really enjoy them. And Prabhupada's real deep humility comes out. Please read them. Have you read them?
One to one.
Yes?
One to one. I know. I little bit.
Did you read them?
Not.
Okay. Okay. Another time. Sometime you can read them. You really like them. Do you speak Bengali? Oh, but they're translated into English, so don't worry. So he says, enough of those thoughts, thinking that my disqualification is the only thing. After all, even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord. And the word infallible is a tuta, and that is this undeviating quality of showing mercy to those who even worship in their own feeble, weak attempt to please, not intense. And he gives an example then. For one of the conditioned souls being swept along in the river of time may sometimes reach the shore. In great rivers, some logs or some straw may go all the way to the ocean, but some may, by somehow or another, they may be pushed to the shore. And that is the mercy of Krishna. Mercy, the nature of mercy, is that it's causeless. That's mercy. It's like if someone said, here is 1 crore of rupees, and you didn't have to work for it, that's mercy. Next verse, text 6. Now he's shifting again, but the theme of this section is the first of the instructions on the path, and that is humility. First principle. He says, today, all my sinful reactions have been eradicated. He's thinking in the future. And my birth has become worthwhile. He's thinking that since I will offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, which mystic yogis meditate upon. Yogis spend hundreds of years just trying to fix the lotus feet of the Lord in their consciousness, in their hearts, and they're meditating upon his form. And that's called spurti. But I am so much more fortunate than them because without even practicing yoga, I'm going to see those same lotus feet that they're meditating upon. And the result of that seeing, is that all the sins that I've committed for so many births. Boom, all eradicated, removed, finished. And therefore, by seeing those lotus feet, which I will see because I'm on the path, by Krishna's mercy, I will see them. Therefore, my life is worthwhile. It has some purpose, some meaning. I've actually achieved something. I've achieved actually the greatest wealth and the greatest fortune. So to see one's disqualification, to see Krishna's mercy, to make up for our lack of qualification, and to see the greatness of the achievement. These are some of the components of truly being humble on the path. And there's one more, and this one is quite astounding too. Indeed, this is the 7th verse. Today, where he's thinking, this is the most amazing part of this journey, he's thinking, is where is the water of this mercy coming from? Indeed, he says, today, King Kamsa has shown me extreme mercy by sending me to see the lotus feet of Lord Hari, who has now appeared in this world. And again, referring to his lotus feet and the fortune of Krishna's appearance in this world, simply by the effulgence of his toenails. Many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and achieved freedom, liberation. And where did this mercy come from? It's come from Kamsa. He's the most sinful, rascal person that Krishna is going to kill, and I'm trying to help Krishna kill him. But yet, this sinful rascal, Kamsa, some mercy has come through him to me. This is astounding. And here is a point of humility on the path that is a secret in living a life of Krishna consciousness. That somehow or another, difficult and unlikely as it may be, somehow or another, tateyanu kampam susamiksamano bunjane bhatma kripavabakam, that somehow or another a devotee feels that he is living in the mercy of Krishna, and all that occurs is the mercy of Krishna. Of course, this has to be balanced with the practical. We don't close our eyes as we walk across the street, not even once, because if we do it once, we won't have a second opportunity to do it. So therefore, we don't even do it once, because we don't challenge the laws of material nature. But if we find ourselves in a difficult situation, and this point is, I find so hard to speak about and give strong classes on, because that means I'm supposed to do it. That whenever is one in a circumstance, even if it seems unfavorable, somehow or another, there's some mercy from Krishna in it. And the devotee doesn't think, I'm the doctor who has to prescribe for myself and I only want sweets as my medicine, which is the way I tend to think. And then when something happens against my plans, what I think is best for me, of course, again, bitter medicine isn't part of the diet that I prescribe for myself. There's therefore a famous saying that the doctor who prescribes for himself has a fool for a patient. Did you ever hear that?
What is good?
Okay. The doctor who prescribes for himself has a fool for a patient. Get it? Yeah? It's funny, sort of, but no one laughed. Okay, never mind. Okay. Anyway, believe me, it's somewhat, in English, maybe it's a little funny. A doctor who prescribes for himself has a fool for a patient. Isn't it funny? Is it true? So doctors, when they have a problem, generally they'll go to a trusted doctor. Yes? Or no? What do you think? I mean, you ever see a doctor taking his own pulse or something like that? Let me see your tongue. Anyway, so one trusts Krishna in circumstances and sees somehow or another, hidden as it may be, Krishna's mercy is here. And in everyone's life, and the little ones don't know this, and they can even cover their ears, even though they're not really listening anyway. But life is difficult, and it doesn't unfold the way we have plans for it to be. And I once heard, actually, in a lecture, a Catholic priest speaking about what's the difference between a third world country, he was from the United States, and the way the people think in the United States. And he said, in the United States, when something doesn't go right, when something doesn't go the way they had planned and thought it should go, they get very upset, they feel very entitled, and they're very surprised. How has this not gone right? And in third world countries, if something does go right, they're surprised. So the differences in this, what he was explaining is the differences in the size of the false ego and the feeling of entitlement. Everything should go, the whole universe should line itself up around my desires, and the universe should fulfill my desires. And of course, the problem with that is everyone is thinking like that. And my desire is that, no, of course, my desire is that all your stocks go up and you remain healthy and everything, and your car never gets a flat tire or stuck in traffic. But everyone, it doesn't happen to everyone, because everyone is thinking, my car should go first, and everyone else's car should move out of the way, but everyone is thinking like that. So it doesn't work. So therefore, to have a big sense of oneself and one's entitlement and one's false ego means that you're going to be disappointed in a very heavy way at some point in your life, confirmed by a very timely sneeze by a little girl. You, thank you. You're doing a great job of sneezing. Which is a whole different teacher's principle. We'll move to another teacher's principle that when I learned about teaching, I heard of one principle that sometimes when you're in a bad mood and nothing's going right, you see that all the students in front of you, everything they do is wrong. And your job at that time is to find good in someone, even though it looks like there's no good in anyone. Because the problem is in your mind, really. It's really true. So you have to find some good, even though it's not apparent that it's good. So if someone sneezes, you say, what a wonderful sneeze you made. And you're breathing so nicely today. And then when you start seeing good, your consciousness shifts. It's actually incredible. Your consciousness shifts, and all the people who are only bad before, they start acting good. Do your teachers use that trick on you? Do they tell you it's the most wonderful mask I've ever seen? What t-shirt are you wearing, by the way? Just run. Do you run a lot? You're just telling everyone else they should run. Run faster. Is it good to run faster? Is it good to run slower? Is it good to run? Yeah. Where are you going? Where is it good to run to? Okay, yeah. That's the right answer. Are you going to run to Goloka? That's a really good answer. You know, if it's so much is a matter of our desire, because we can't change our capacity so much, and we can't change. But if we can desire, Ihan yasya here dasye, kamano manasagira, nikalasapya satsvatpi, jiva mukta sauchate. That in his commentary on this verse, Srila Jiva Goswami and Prabhupada talks about this means your desire. If you fully and sincerely desire to serve Krishna, even though your situation may not allow you to do it, if you sincerely have that desire, sincerely, continuously, you're a liberated person. You'll be there. So if we can't do anything else, we should really pray to Krishna to make our desires strong to be with him, to serve gurus, to serve Vaishnavas, to take part in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu's mission, to be instruments. If we sincerely actually desire those things, it's just a matter of time before we're on that path and that level, that which we had desired. And on the other hand, if we have materialistic desires, and the example like Dhruva Maharaj, he had a desire. His desire was quite childish. He wanted a kingdom bigger than the universe, bigger than everything. And then when he finally saw Krishna, that desire went away because he was fully satisfied, because our desires spring from the unhappiness in our heart, thinking, if only I had this, then I would be happy. If only this happened, then I'd be happy. If only if this obstacle were removed, then I'd be, if then, I'd be happy. But nothing in the material world can actually satisfy us. Just 1 second. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, but you don't have to raise your hand or say Haribol if you agree, but this is a very private internal question. That no situation in the material world can make you happy, no matter what it is. All the things that we dream about that we didn't have in our life, that went wrong in our life, from beginning from our early childhood years to whatever happened, and this happened and that happened, and we dream that if only this and only that, and I only want that. But the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita says that leads us to future births, those desires. So no place in the material world, no situation could actually fulfill the soul's deepest desire, which is to love Krishna. And here's the question, that don't raise your hand, but ask yourself, do you really believe that? That's the question I want to ask you. Do you really believe that? So if one if Akrura can see being in the service of Kamsa, look at the mercy that has come to me through that, even though it wasn't, Kamsa didn't have mercy in mind when he asked me to do that. He had complete selfishness in mind. But somehow or another, this difficult situation of being the messenger, the servant of Kamsa who has sent me and even told me personally that his plan was to kill Krishna and Balaram. And he wants me to be an instrument of that horrible, terrible, demonic plan of his. And yet, there's mercy in it. Now, how to find the mercy in every situation? And if one actually accepted that I've tried to serve Krishna, I've said, Krishna, I am yours, and I'm under the protection of Krishna, and nothing can actually happen to me outside of his will and desire. Vidvagva Purvanga Dano Namaste, and offering obeisances to Krishna in every circumstance, saying Krishna's mercy. If we had that consciousness, then one can wander in this world wherever one is and be fearless. Be fearless, like Prabhupada was fearless. And yet balance that with being practical too, because Prabhupada was practical. He was fearless, he depended on Krishna, but he was also practical. He fully depended on Krishna when he was getting the land in Juhu, but when it came to the fight, he fought like anything in a practical way. Arjuna, Krishna said, Nimitta Karam Bhavya Savya Sachin, you be my instrument, you look at this Kalarupa, this form of the Lord, and you'll see the future. You see that everyone is being destroyed. Everyone, even Bhishma, Karna, everyone but the Pandavas destroyed. And I want you to be an instrument, but yet, and I will do it, but yet you have to fight. So, and there was so much mercy in that, actually. So take your services seriously. Now I'm sort of moving from the topic a bit, but if we can see the mercy of Krishna in every circumstance, we are very fortunate, very fortunate. Jivatiyo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Such a person inherits the kingdom of God just as naturally as the eldest son inherits the property of his father. In other words, he's already in the spiritual world because he's seeing Krishna in everything that happens to him. And his heart is open with gratitude and affection. So this is the first section, different aspects of humility. And even seeing Krishna in all circumstances is also a part of humility. And humility is a requirement for prema bhakti, for love. This is explained by Sanatana Goswami. And naturally, if one is humble, one naturally loves Krishna. Completely natural. So humility is the first lesson that Akrura is giving us on the path. Now, what we're going to do is play a video. And in this video, this first section about humility has been described. Akrura's journey, it's almost like a review. And this video, I narrated, and some very kind devotees from Nepal have put together the visual part of it. It's more or less a review of this section about humility. And it's the verse, basically it's the verses, plus I've incorporated some of the comments of the acharyas. Can you see it? Can you see it from, Mataji, can you see it or not? Yes? Yes, yes. Where are the little ones? Can you see it, little one? But I think you're gonna get a sore neck if you sit. But in the back, there's a little room. But this is a little room. Are you gonna be okay? Where will you sit? Will you be able to see it okay? Okay. Okay, maybe we should turn off the lights, and we may have to adjust the sound and get it. We probably will, and then we may start it again after everything is going. Okay. Chalo. Oh,
Switch off the lights.
yeah. Is that enough? Enough? Can you see all right? Okay. Can you see all right, little one? Okay. We'll have to. Didn't seem to be coming out of the speakers. Okay, start it all over again. Prabhu, start it again.
And he felt himself very full. As he traveled on the road, the great soul of intense devotion for the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead. And he felt himself very fortunate when he cherished holding the all beautiful Supreme Lord as the object of his journey. Akrura became absorbed in prayer-filled thoughts of Krishna as he traveled on his chariot to Braja. He first felt humility, for he recognized his lack of qualification to see unlimitedly beautiful and powerful Krishna. What pious deeds have I done, Akrura wondered. What severe austerities have I undergone, or what worship have I performed, or even what charity have I given that would award me the result of today seeing Lord Keshava, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm simply a materialistic person absorbed in sense pleasures. How have I gotten the opportunity to see He whose fame destroys birth and death? Seeing Krishna is most rare. How can one with no sadhana and who is completely unqualified have his darshan? But enough of such thoughts. Akrura checked himself. After all, even a fallen soul like me can behold the infallible Supreme Lord. For even a conditioned soul, like a log swept along in the fast currents of a river, may sometimes reach the shore. By Krishna's grace, anything is possible. For my Lord never deviates from his glorious quality of being merciful, and he never fails to respond to a person's sincere worship, feeble as that worship may be. Yes, today I will see Krishna because of Krishna's qualities of mercy and compassion. Today, my birth will become successful, for I will be able to directly offer my obeisances at Krishna's lotus feet, even though great mystic yogis are only able to meditate on them, but cannot directly see them. Astonishingly, today, the cause of my being blessed to see Krishna is that I am the recipient of the mercy of Kamsa of all people. For Kamsa himself has sent me to see the lotus feet of Krishna. Takes away all inauspiciousness. Simply by the effulgence of Krishna's toils, many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and have attained him. And yet, it is that rascal demon Kamsa who has created this fortune for me. Astonishing.
Haribol. Maybe we could turn on a light or two. So now tomorrow, I'm going to ask you about the message of the first verses of Akrura, where Akrura is describing his journey and what the essence of that message is. And you have to save it for tomorrow because I'm going to ask. Okay? And you'll know the answer. Yeah? And then you can describe maybe some of the aspects of that humility. Okay, so the class is officially finished. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the nice class.
Hare Krishna.
My question was that Akrura, as you said that when Akrura was meditating, when Akrura was approaching Vrindavan, so he was thinking that when I'll see Krishna, all my sins will be eradicated. So this is because of his humility, he is thinking like that, because as we understand, if one is eligible to see Krishna, all his sins are anyways eradicated. So it is because of his humility, he is thinking like that?
Or connected one step more, it's Krishna's mercy that's going to cause him to become purified. It's nothing that he himself has done, not his tapasya, not his charity, not this, not that. It's Krishna's mercy. So that recognizing the power of Krishna's mercy, not of one's own power, one could say that's a part of humility. But he's confident that he's going to see Krishna, and he's confident of what he's going to do, and he's confident of the power of seeing Krishna. So devotee can be very confident, but it's not in his own power. And a non-devotee can make believe he's confident, but ultimately everyone is, I never can remember, what's the word for bluffing again? What's the word for bluffing? Bluff. Yeah, how about in Hindi? Dhokha. Yeah, say it. Dhokha. Dhokha. Next life, I'll get it right. Not this life. Maybe last life, maybe next life, but not this life. Dhokha. Everyone is bluffing. They drive, you ever see, yeah, it's false pride. Inside everyone is missing something. Yeah, but confidence in Krishna and trusting in that, and trusting that I'm a servant of such a great master, that's not false ego, real ego. Yes, Mataji, is that okay?
Prabhuji, you said all the situations we have to see it as Krishna's mercy. In our conditioned state, the situations may turn negative even because of our own mistakes. So, if we see as Krishna's mercy, then there is no room for improvement.
Yes. We should, yes. Yeah, I've made a mistake, and Krishna's given me a slap out of his mercy. Maybe I deserve, instead I get a slap. So that we see as Krishna's mercy, and let me learn my lessons well. That's another aspect of Satayunu Kampamsus and Mikravano. And also sometimes, like when someone else gets hurt, we say, Krishna's mercy, Prabhu. That doesn't work very well either. Is that okay as an answer? Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Ji, for such an insightful class.
Hare Krishna.
I have this question that you mentioned Krishna's mercy. So you mentioned that Krishna's mercy is causeless, and we also know that...
mercy by definition is causeless, otherwise it's business.
So, and also we also know that if this Krishna consciousness, there is a process.
Yes.
And if you follow the process, then the result has to come. So how to understand these two things parallelly? Conscious aspect and also the
Yeah.
sure.
See, it's not a mechanical process, though. To mechanically follow the process won't bring you the result. At some point, because Krishna responds to bhakti, so when one follows the process, in the beginning, naturally, we think in a mechanical way. All I have to do is this, and this. And Krishna will reciprocate with that. But what he wants us to do is, through following the process, through hearing about his name, his form, his qualities, and his pastimes, and through chanting his holy names to purify the heart, to develop loving attraction and affection for him, and do what we do for his pleasure out of affection. And that's what he's going to respond to. So the process will lead us to that. It may take some time, but we must elevate our consciousness to the point of bhakti, affection. And that happens by Krishna's mercy also, by our sincere attempt. And then we sort of mechanically do things with a half mind, and then after some time we think, I haven't achieved anything. I don't feel any love for Krishna or attraction to Krishna. Then we take a step forward and understand why, that my worship has been feeble, but please be merciful, please accept this. Please accept this feeble worship that I haven't done very well. I've swept the floor so many times, not thinking of pleasing you, but at least I've swept the floor for you on the request of your servants. But now I would do it in a different way. Please accept this. Patram pushpam palam toyam yomam bhakta prayachati bhaktapa asnami paratapmana. And then when we realize that we don't have very much bhakti or any bhakti, then we become humble. And then our chanting will have a different quality to it if we want to love Krishna. And then humility, and if our desire will interact in a wonderful way. Is that clear enough? Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu, and then.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
It
Krishna.
was very wonderful and amazing principle that you explained, that how to see Krishna's mercy in every situation. So it's very elevated principle for my level. Whenever any difficulties or situation that comes not as I thought or planned out, the first response is that how to mitigate or how to overcome.
Oh yeah, that's better than me. I get angry.
So how to focus on rather than overcoming and accepting the situation as a Krishna?
No, even if you think of how to overcome it, the first thing you have to do is accept it. If you don't accept it, then you're not dealing with the real situation. So then the level that we want to deal with it on is that, okay, whose fault is this? I didn't think it out clearly. Is it just everything's the other person's fault, or this or that? Or somehow or another, Krishna wants me to learn something from this. What does he want me to learn? How does he want me to improve my consciousness? And then we act practically and depend on Krishna for the result. Not that we don't act practically and just depend on Krishna, and not that we do act practically and don't depend on Krishna. Don't depend on Krishna. We act practically and depend on Krishna. That's the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. But we know that it's ultimately Krishna's desire that's going to prevail. The example is given 2 places in the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada would say that if it was the medicine, are there any doctors in here? Any doctors? But I've seen in Vrindavan, one homeopathic doctor has on his card, I prescribe, but God heals. So a good doctor knows, and I once asked a nurse, an experienced nurse, what's the most difficult part of your job? And she replied in a very wise way. I expected her to say, when you see the open bodies and you see all the things that a human being makes the human body work. But she said something quite different. She said, when people come to a hospital, they expect you to cure them and to tell them that we don't have the power to cure you, that we can try our best, but that's in hands other than ours. That was her answer. Do you notice that when you go to a hospital or something, you expect, yeah, I'm here, they'll fix it. But it doesn't work like that. If that were the case, there would be no children who would ever leave this world, because the parents want the best for them, give them the best medicine and everything, etc., etc. But it doesn't work like that. So again, we act practically but depend on Krishna, and we don't just depend on Krishna and not act practically. Sometimes we're in a circumstance, though, that all we can do is depend on Krishna. We can't, our hands are tied, in a sense, not maybe literally, but have you ever been in a circumstance like that? And what did you do? Huh?
Completely helpless.
And what did you do?
Just wait and watch.
Yeah, so we have, next time, if it ever happens again, you have to wait and watch and call out to Krishna and put yourself in his hands and be Krishna conscious. That's the part that we want to. And who is, yes, last question.
Prabhuji, this is from yesterday's session, Prabhuji. Like now, when you were narrating about Narada informing Kamsa that actually the son of Nanda Maharaj is actually the son of Vasudeva. Actually, like prior to Kamsa sending Akrura, already Kamsa has sent so many asuras, like Putana, Shakatasura, so many asuras, and they were all killed and they never came back. But it is wondering that how come Kamsa did not know that actually Krishna, who is under the care of Nanda Maharaj, is actually his death. Only when Narada revealed that he is actually your cause of your death, this means I could not understand.
Yes.
Could you please clarify?
My understanding of that is that he was suspecting that it was Krishna, but he wasn't sure. Because the problem had to be solved. Now, I saw with my own eyes that the child of Devaki, who was the 8th child, was a girl child, a female child, and she was a Devi. And I tried to kill her, and she was a Devi. So that was the part that was impossible for him to understand. So when Narada told him that child was actually born to Yashoda, and Vasudeva, out of his fear, had brought him there, then the pieces fit together for him. But he suspected it. And also Krishna's Maya is at play. And also, sometimes when we learn something, we were told something, then the pieces fit together. Oh yes, now I understand what's happening. And until then, and then you realize, oh, it was so obvious, but I never could see it. But now I understand. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Just give me a second. Kamsa really, he almost knew it. One day, this is Jiva Goswami describes that one day Kamsa is sitting on his throne like this. and Pralambasura, maybe it was either Pralambasura or Vatsasura, came to him and said, "What's wrong, O sire? Why are you so depressed? What's wrong?" And Kamsa just goes. Kamsa's thinking, just as you said, that all my friends I've sent, all my supporters I've sent, and they've all been killed. And then Pralambasura, he says, "Don't worry," he understands. "Don't worry about a thing. I will take Krishna and throw him over one shoulder. I'll take Balaram and throw him over the other shoulder. And I'll be back in 1 hour. I will bring them to you for you to do with as you like. Don't worry about anything." And at this point, Kamsa was like this. He said, "Moths are really attracted to fire, aren't they?" Yeah, so he understood, sort of, but the pieces hadn't really fully come together yet for him. Okay? So tomorrow we shall continue and conclude, but actually it just will conclude this section, but actually it just goes on and on and on and on, eternal Nitya Lila, with different varieties of sweetness and interesting pastimes. So wonderful, our Krishna's pastimes. So wonderful is Srimad Bhagavatam. So wonderful is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift. So wonderful is Srila Prabhupada, and so wonderful are all the servants of Srila Prabhupada too. All the followers, Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Hare Krishna.